Okay, so I want to talk about the big losers in post-36 Texans, and that's the Tejanos. Uh, Tejanos become a despised minority, a distrusted minority in Texas. It doesn't happen overnight. Once again is appointed alcalde of San Antonio, for instance. You do have he does serve in the Texas Congress. He passes legislation that bills that are passed or be translated into Spanish. So you do have some elite Tejanos. Navarro is another one. You do have, for a little less than a decade, some elite Tejanos. They carry their status over into the Texas Republic. But within a decade, that's pretty much gone, with some very, very few exceptions. Um, One of the problems for Tejanos is there's just not very many of them. Once again, and this is the last time I'll say this because I'm sure you're sick of hearing, the Spanish inability to populate Texas becomes a historical variable. And at this point, even in 1836, on the eve of the Texas Revolution, you had like 30,000 Anglos in Texas. There had been a big boom in cotton prices, and even in the last 3 or 4 years of Mexican Texas, you had Americans pouring into Texas. So there's, the Texas Revolution, there's about 30,000 Anglos, about 5,000 slaves, and there's only about 5,000 Tejanos. There were as many slaves as there were Tejanos. So there's not a lot of Tejanos. Most of the Tejanos are located to the west of where most Anglos are. Most Anglos are in East Texas. Tejanos are located in San Antonio for the most part, Goliad, Nacogdoches. But they become victim. Well, I hate the word victim, but what happens is that they completely lose their status, and for the most part, their political rights within a decade. And the deal is that you had Anglos coming into Mexico or the Republic of Texas after 1836. And the vast majority of these Anglos considered anybody that had darker skin as biologically inferior. African Americans, of course, they were the most racist too, but many were racist towards Tejanos as well. And many of these folks that are coming in, they want the land that the Tejanos own. And they despise them. They despise the Roman Catholic Church. The United States is overwhelmingly Protestant, and it seems odd to us in 2016, but there used to be really stark divisions between the Protestant religion and the Roman Catholic religion. They despise the Spanish language. They see it as an inferior language. They despise the skin color. There's this belief that Tejanos are inferior intellectually, emotionally. But above all, the Anglos that come in, they hold Tejanos responsible for the Alamo, for what happened at Goliad, for the atrocities of the Texas Revolution. They have no idea about the niceties of the Texas Revolution. When they see somebody with a brown skin, they assume, well, you were at the Alamo, or you were one of the people, killing prisoners at Goliad. And this still happens in Texas to this very day. You'll have folks whose family have been in Texas, for 150 years, 200 years. And they might get stopped, and there's this sense that, well, when did you come over from Mexico? Did you come over yesterday? People that have been in Mexico for centuries, or people that have been in Texas for centuries, their family. There's just not much sense of a differentiation, right? If you're brown-skinned, you're part of this undifferentiated mass of Mexican Americans, people that can't be trusted, that are despised, that are inferior. And so what you have is a wave of Mexican of racism towards Mexican Americans after 1836, and where it really was salient and where it was really significant was when it came to land titles. Tejanos had been given huge amounts of land in Texas by the Spanish government and later by the Mexican government. It was easy for the Spanish and Mexican government to do this because from their point of view, the land really wasn't worth very much. It was easy to give families big tracts of land. It was a very remote region. Well, the folks that are coming into Texas, especially coming into East Texas, they want this land. And they want this land because they want to grow cotton on this land. And they don't really recognize the legitimacy of the Spanish law. They don't recognize the legitimacy of Spanish and Mexican land titles. And they're just land hungry. They're just voracious about wanting to take land, to get land, to grow cotton, to become wealthy. You know, remember, these are some of the same folks that supported the Trail of Tears, where Cherokee had been kicked off their land in Georgia and Alabama and been forced into Oklahoma territory. So this land was desired for the growth of cotton. And so basically Tejanos and their land claims were in the way. And so what you have is ultimately more than 1 million acres of land changed hands from Tejano to Anglo between the Texas Revolution and about 1845. By 1846, 40 of the 49 ranches belonging to Tejanos in the Goliad area were in the hands of Anglos. And the reason for this was it wasn't like Tejanos are selling this land for a lot of money. Anglos are coming in, they're intimidating the Tejanos, they're threatening them with violence, they're kicking Tejanos out of the territory, and much of these land sales they're done for pennies on the dollar. Anglos are coming in and getting fantastically cheap prices from Tejanos for their land. The other thing that's going on is that many Anglos are quite suspicious of Tejanos. They think Tejanos are sympathetic to slaves. Some were, some weren't. And they want Tejanos out of East Texas. So they literally start, under gunpoint, they start driving Tejanos out of East Texas, out of Central Texas, towards the Rio Grande. So what you have in Texas is a major shift in land ownership, where over 1 million acres of land within a very short period, through intimidation, through violence, through threats, shifts from the land of their traditional Tejano owners into Anglo hands. And the engine that's driving this is the global cotton economy, because that's what these Anglos want with this land. They want to grow cotton. And in order to grow cotton, they want to bring slaves. So what's happening, and one of the ways to look at it is Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana are moving into Texas. Texas now has become part of, although it's not official yet, Texas is not part of the United States politically, but economically, within a very, very short period, Texas is part of the Gulf Coast slave South, where it's very much part of the cotton economy of this region of North America.